Welcome to Pies Around the House in part 32 in my series of loft conversion videos. Today we're going to be fitting the remainder of the timber soffit board. We'll be going over the top with some uPVC over cladding soffit board, and we'll be doing some uPVC over fascia board. And hopefully I can show you some tips and tricks along the way. So you've seen me previously working on the inside because the weather hasn't been great. I've been doing the insulation, the electrics and anything I can get on with in the dry. Well anyway, I had a knock at the door the other day. It was the scaffolder and he wants his scaffolding back. Now, to be fair to him, I've had it for almost 11 months. He did say you could have it for as long as you want. I don't think he thought I was going to be quite that long. Anyway, these things do run on, and that's by the by. So basically, I've ordered some materials for my fascia board. I've got to get on with the uPVC fascia, soffits, that kind of thing. And then once I've done that, I've got to get my floorboards, plasterboard through that gap in the window. Then I can concentrate on slating this up, finishing it off, putting a divide between those two windows, and then he can have his scaffolding back. So as we saw previously, I've actually done my fascias and my soffits in timber. You know, we saw it down here as well along the main house. And the reason I did that is personally, I just think it gives a bit more structure integrity. And it also means that I can just sort of finish it all off with no scratching or damaging while I'm clambering over the roof. And then eventually I can just put the plastic over the top. Anyway, we're at that point more or less now. Just to show you what I've been doing here. The way I've clad this dormer is I've actually done the slates right the way up. Now, from what I've seen with other people, sometimes they just put a length of timber across there, piece of lead over the top, fold it up, and then you just slate up to here, and then you pull your lead over the top. Now, to be honest, that would have been easier. I mean, in hindsight, maybe I should have done it, I don't know. But I just prefer that clean look of the soffit going straight into my slate. I don't really like the lead flapping over the top. I don't know why, maybe I'm being too fussy. Anyway, so that's what I've done. So here is all I've done is used a little bit of the gravel board that I've used for the fascia there. I've cut it with a taper at the top, see there, and I've just levelled it at the right height that it comes down, screwed that into the rafters, and I've put this 2x2 underneath for a bit of extra support there. And then the overlap I've left there now is enough to fit another piece of this gravel board in there for my soffit, and then I can screw that up into all these pieces of 2x2 there. And maybe not into the end of the grain of that because it'll probably split. You can see that one split a tiny bit there, and then that'll go up, and then I can basically put my uPVC fascias over the top and the soffits up to that. I'll have a nice solid bit to go up to, and I'll have this nice clean finish into the slate. So that's the look I'm after. That's that fascia on with that soffit, just like the other one. Okay, so by here I've got my soffit uPVC cladding. Now you can buy one length soffit to fit, so like on new houses, a bit like these timbers I've done, you can whack them all the way across, but unfortunately, because this is all over the shop, it's better sometimes to use this cladding and then you can cut this down to size and short lengths. That end there slots in to the back end, which has that groove there, and then this bit you screw up, and that's hidden by this bit slotting inside it. I hope that makes sense. I'll show you how it works in a minute. And then going back underneath here to the soffit, to hold it up against the edge here and give you a neat edge, you have what's called starter channel or starter trim, or some people call it J trim. So here's your length of trim. I'll just show you the profile of that there. You screw that basically up to the soffit, so this will be the other way round, and twist it round that way, coming out of the wall, and then the soffit slots into there, holding it in place and giving a nice neat edge along the wall. This bit has the screws, which will then be hidden by the soffit, and I'm going to screw up into the soffit board. And again, you just cut that down to the length you need. This one's a little bit short actually, so I'm going to need the other bit along the front of the house here. But yeah, I'm going to get on with that now, and hopefully that all makes sense. And then the front edge, when you go along the fascia here, is covered by the turn back on the fascia board that turns underneath, and then that'll hide the front edge of this soffit board, because if you actually look at the end of the soffit cladding, it's like hollow, corrugated like that, so it looks very scruffy, so you obviously don't want that kind of thing on show where you've got cuts. So I'm just going to cut down this soffit cladding. Now I've just done a quick trial run on the end strip, and I used my jigsaw with the blade that's on it, and it's only a rough old wood cutting blade, but it seems to have done it fine, so I'm going to use that because that's the quickest way, and like I say, the edges are hidden anyway, so if it's slightly rough, it doesn't bother me. Down on the end bit where I'm joining to next door is a little bit fiddly, because he's used an older cladding, obviously because it's been there for years, and it's got a slightly different fitting. So where this bit slots into the other bit, along here I've just used the thin nose pliers. You can see I've just wedged that down because it's actually a lot bigger on the cladding I'm using. It's a bigger gap, so by just squeezing it with the pliers I should be able to wedge that up inside his, and then we'll have no problem then. You'll notice as well I've done a cut there on this one, which is a bit wider, because unfortunately his fascia steps out a little bit at the bottom, so it means his soffit is a little bit deeper, and obviously I made a few cutbacks on my rafters, and obviously if his roof is ever done in the future, it's his that's out. It's tilting the fascia board, so I'm not going to follow his, because otherwise I end up with a tilting fascia board. So eventually I'll cover the two with a piece of angle, and I'll just cut that down at a taper so it covers the end. Then obviously then my house is fine, and then if anyone does that one in the future, hopefully they can try and blend in with mine so they're both straight. So before I carry on with the rest, I just want to show you exactly how this cladding works on the soffits. So we've got a starter trim, or J trim, or channel, whatever you want to call it, which you saw me screwing earlier, and that's just screwed all the way along up into my soffit board, because I've got the timber soffit underneath. Then your cladding is cut down to size, so you just measure the width and cut it. Slot that into your channel along there, that holds that end up, also gives you a neat edge, and then pop your two screws into there like that. Now these will be covered up with the next bit of cladding, which I'll show you now. So taking the next bit of cladding, you just turn that upside down, and that groove there slots into the other groove. Make sure that goes into your channel, and there we go. And when you push that up, it gives you the natural looking groove there. It covers your screws, and then you're on to your next one. And then obviously there, another two screws in this bit, and then all this rough edge over there will be covered by the overhang of the fascia eventually. On this last piece here, is all I've done is brought the strip right the way out to the end there, And then by doing that, I'm just going to run this front bit of soffit right to the end of the fascia board, and then I'm just going to do a butt joint up to that one and just carry on in the other direction. And to mark this, we just put this piece of board in that I've cut to size. Then once I'm happy that's in the right position, I'm just going to use a pencil and mark across the top. There we go. I can now trim that off, and again, this cut here is going to be covered by the underhang on the fascia board anyway. Now, although this piece is very short and it's likely to hold itself up, for belt and braces, I'm just going to try and pop a screw right in the end here, because obviously that's going to be covered by the underhang on this fascia, so you won't see it anyway. So there we are, that's all the soffit done on this side. Now I've just got to fix the fascia board. Okay, so I'm onto the fascia board now. So what I'm going to do is nail the fascia board straight into this timber. I did originally plan to do a series of 2 nails every so often going into my rafters, so I was going to line them up with exactly where the rafters were on the house. And unfortunately the rafters on this house aren't evenly spaced at all, so actually when I've been going along and marking it, I thought it might look a bit stupid. Not that you'd really notice them because they've got white heads on the nails anyway, but if they're not even, they're not going to look as good as if I just measure them evenly spaced and go straight into this board. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to go along this fascia board now. I'm going to measure it with a measuring tape at 80 centimetre intervals or 800mm intervals. With my square here, I'm just going to draw a straight line then down at those points, and then I'm going to measure 2 distances, I'm not quite sure yet, down from the top of the fascia board, drill a hole so they're in exactly the same place all the way along, pre-drill them, and then I can nail through that when I offer the fascia board up to the timber board behind. Otherwise you find you've got to cut around it, or you'll get these little scrappy bits of plastic stuck behind your nail head. Now I've done that, I'm going to go back and finish off all the nails and put this board on tight. So that's the one board done. Now you'll notice there I had to pull a few of the nails out. I don't know if I hit screws or a knot in the wood, but for whatever reason they wouldn't go. And quite often you've got to watch because the plastic cap will just come off once you pull them out, so don't try and put the same one back in if it's broken. But if you do that, you see what I did there. I used a piece of slate, either that or a piece of timber, but always put a piece of timber or something below your hammer when you're pulling it out with the claw, because this stuff will dent if you pull into there, and you don't want to dent your nice new fascia board. Even though the gutter's going over this, just be careful. Between one piece of fascia board there and your next one, you need to leave a gap. They recommend about 8 to 10 millimeters, I think, so that's what I've done. And then when you put your joining bit in between, you leave a gap to one side of it, put a bit of sealant over it, and the gap is hidden behind, but it allows any movement in the plastic, because you've only got to listen when it's hot sun to people's fascias and you hear them cracking and clanking all over the place, and that's the expansion and contraction. So that's the importance of leaving a gap, and you hide it over with your cover joint, which I'll show you later on. The other thing I've done is drilled the holes again in this one at equal distances, and then same thing, I'm just going to nail it up. Again, I should have taken my own advice and not driven that nail in, because I haven't taken the plastic off yet. Not that you're going to see it behind the gutter, but just something to bear in mind when you're doing your own. And to be honest, all these little tips that you pick up are usually tips I discovered myself from making a mistake in the first place. So hopefully I can pass them on to you, and it'll save you the hassle. There we go, look. On this piece, I got that piece of plastic. There we go. Tore off anyway. Now we can drive that home. Okay, so before we clean up, there's the fascia board all the way down. See those nice even screw heads all the way. Just show you on the corner. My plan here is I've done it flush with this piece of wood, and I'm going to do the same on this side. I'm just going to bring it to here, and that means then if you get any expansion this way or any expansion this way, these fascia boards are free to move back and forth. And then obviously we put our corner strip over the end of that. So here's the expansion gap I was talking about between two lengths of fascia board, and when we put our join over there, it covers that gap, but it just means that this is free to move back and forth. Now this nail I was talking about before, see how close I've done that to the joint? I'm not sure if my joint is wider than that and will sit over the top, so bit of a mistake there, but that's something to bear in mind if you're doing it yourself. Just put your nails like this one, a little bit wider, gives you strip room then to sit down flush to your fascia board. So there we go, here's all the fascia, all the way down, going underneath. It's all the soffit. And we're just going to do the same down this section then tomorrow. Well, I'm going to knock it on the head for today because it's 7:30. You hear all that noise over there? That's people having fun in the pub like they should be, unlike me, because I'm a bit of a sado. Anyway, I'll see you next time on my video. So we're back again, freezing cold today, so I've got the fleece on again. And today we're working on the side of the house, so we're going to be doing all the soffits up the side, then hopefully the fascia, and then maybe we'll work our way up onto the dormer later if we get a good run of it. When it comes to this corner bit, you'll see before I mentioned I just brought this channel straight out to the end. So what I've done is taken a section of this, now making sure it's the right way round. Obviously you need this little overlap by there to be there so we can screw it up with screws. The other end had that round little bit that pushes into the previous section. Obviously having that strip there, I'm not able to do that now. So what I've done is just right at the end, at the widest point where it tapers back out, I've just gone through it with a jigsaw. It's done a nice straight cut there, and by doing that, when I slot this in, like that, this butts up to the channel, nice and straight, and it's also at the same depth. If I hadn't trimmed it down, it would look okay, but it obviously tapers in, and it's the bit that's meant to be hidden. Because obviously with this cladding, when the one bit sits inside the other, the idea is it hides it so you've got the even widths of this cladding all the way along. So by cutting it where I've trimmed it down, that is now exactly the same width as the next one and the next one, even without that bit to stick into the other section. I hope that makes sense. Like I say, I think there's several ways to do this. It's just the way I'm doing it because it's the way that's easiest for this roof. It's an old house, that's just how it is. You've got to work with things as you go along. Then for a bit of extra stability, I'm just going to pop a slightly longer screw up through the end here, but I'm going to make sure it's near the end where the overhang of this fascia is going to hide the screw head, just like I've done by there. If you look underneath along there, we've done all the soffit now. We've got proper pipes down there. He's back in action, ready and rearing to go. I got him on the jigsaw cutting some bits, which is making things a little bit quicker. So there we go, that's it for today. We've done all the fascias right the way down. You've got underneath all this Soffit cladding right the way down there. Come up, we've got Popper House has been grafting away. He's been cutting these fascias here for me. So they're all fitted in place now on the dormer. He cut all these down to size for me again, the cladding. And that I fitted with that channel trim, so that looks nice and neat now up against the slates. Down here you can see all this fascia board right the way to the end. We did exactly the same on here. We spaced these nails at 800mm or 80 centimeters. And I think I did 4 centimeters from the top and 10 centimeters from the top. That's where the gutter will probably hide those, not that they look that bad anyway. So as we go back over here now, we got the fascia on the dormer again there, the trim. And we got all the soffit again underneath. So that's all looking nice and tidy now. I've left this front bit here because I can't do this until I finish off this slate in there, and I can't put the soffit in until the windows are in because the soffit board's going to go up to the windows and so on. So leaving the front for now. Next thing to do is get in here and get all the gutter on this fascia board, and then get some downpipe and get the water running off this main house again. So that's it for today's video, and as always, links to all the tools I use in the video are in the description section below. If you enjoyed the video, then please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, press the bell icon for regular notifications. I've been Poused Around the House. Ta-ta, farewell.